What's going on, y'all? See, y'all tried to hound my ass for this damn video, okay? Listen, I didn't get a chance to watch it on Thursday. Today is Saturday. Girl, I've been working, okay? And shit just been going on. But let's just get into American Horror Stories. Because, baby, listen, this episode was actually pretty good. I literally thought that I was... Girl, I ain't come on here excited, okay? I literally just got through, like, 10 seconds ago watching the episode, and I said, let me go ahead and hop on here, okay? Listen, it felt like I was just watching a leftover episode from American Horror Story Apocalypse, okay? That's what it looked like. That's what it felt like. And I'm sitting here like, OMG. It was good. I don't care what nobody say. It was good to me. You know, they was acting all corny and whatever. Plus, we had Billy Lord up in there. She played Liv. The guy, Matt, that played her husband, he played on... He plays on 911 Lone Star. He plays Rob Lowe, the captain of the firehouse son. Okay, you know, gay son at that. But the Asian boy that played his friend, he played on this TV show that was called Single Parents. Okay, it was really good. I think they got canceled. I'm mad that they got canceled if they did, because I liked the show. But anyway, girl. And shout out to Vanessa L. Williams, okay? Mama is out here getting her checks, all right? Mama is out here getting these jobs. I love to see it. And if y'all don't know who that is, she played the therapist, all right? Or the medical doctor, whatever you want to call her. And she played on Candyman. She played Terry on Soul Food, the series. And, you know, she's all over. You know, you know her. If you see her, you know her, okay? Girl, don't say that. Don't say that. I said, oh, they would have her in here after being on Candyman. Girl, I can't wait till Candyman come out later this month. But anyway, let's just get into the episode, because I got to go back downstairs. So, basically, we get this couple. We get Liv and Matt, all right? Liv basically is a trust fund baby, okay? Or inheritance baby. Her grandfather had made a whole bunch of money, all right? And I guess he died, or his parents died. I mean, her parents died, or whatever. I don't know how, but she inherited all this money. Her husband is a wannabe actor, okay? So he's out here trying to get these gigs, trying to do this, trying to do that. Okay, fine. You know, he keep on getting like extras and stuff on stuff. You know, he's just trying to be a real actor, you know? And so in the process of doing this, they're trying to have a baby. And they've been through 5 rounds, different tries with IVF. And the doctor was telling them, you know, after the 5th one, you shouldn't do it anymore, okay? And it just won't take. It just will not take at all. And so at this point, you know, Miss Liv is like, I don't care what it is that I gotta do. We're gonna have to do 6, okay? Because I want to feel the baby growing inside of me. I want to feel it kicking me. I want to be like, oh, do you feel that? You see that right there? Okay, that's what I want to feel, you know what I'm saying? I want to give birth naturally. I want to push that thing out, okay? Because the doctor suggested, you know, adoption and surrogacy. And, you know, she was like, I'm just not feeling that, okay? And she was like, I got all the money in the world. It don't matter how much it takes. We're going to keep on doing this until, you know, we get pregnant. And it seemed like the husband was on board with it too. You know, he was being nice. He was, you know, all up on her side and, you know, supporting her, saying, I'm going to be there for you and all this stuff. You know, he's getting his little jobs and everything. But when they come out the doctor's office, she runs into the secretary at the little receptionist at the front. And she was like, hey, come here, girl. She was like, listen, you got such a beautiful husband. Like, he hot and he is like, you know, very supportive. Now, see, right then and there, I didn't trust the bitch when she said he hot. I'm talking to somebody that I really don't know like that, and the first thing that I'm going to say is, ooh, your wife fine as shit. I'm not going to do that. That's disrespectful, okay? I don't care if you meant it in a good way or whatever. That's disrespectful. But she was like, I see that you have been up here for the past 2 years trying to get this pregnancy stuff and going on, but I need you to take this. Come here, let me give you something. I said, no, we don't do those things, okay? I don't know you from Adam, okay? And at this point, I know I'm going through some stuff. Baby, I do some stuff, but I ain't doing no stuff like this, okay? Talk about some, take this little totem, okay? It's a fertility guide, you know what I'm saying? It's gonna help you, get pregnant. Put it underneath your bed when you get about to have sex or whatever, and y'all get pregnant. I mean, that's how I got here. It's been in my family for years, and it's like Babylonian. I said, first of all, no. I heard Babylon and I said, no. Now, I read my Bible, okay? I done read my Bible. And I said, and the whole time I'm looking at this episode, I was like, we sitting here loving this episode, or see, this is where I'm getting it, like, the controversy with Lil Nas X. I said, throw Lil Nas X. They should have. I was waiting for his ass to pop up in this goddamn episode at this point. I said, you know what? He would have killed the whole thing. He would have took care of the whole thing. I mean, y'all was mad at a video. We looking at a whole movie on the whole episode. But anyway, girl, she took it because she was desperate. And I'm just sitting here like, who does that? Who does that? I am not going to take something from a stranger that I don't know. So she went home, but this is going to show the things that people do out of desperation when they truly, truly want something. All right. It was a few morals and a few things that was going on in here that, besides the little craziness, you like, oh, I see why a person would be driven to do this and to do that. Okay. Like when you really want something, there's sometimes no limit to what you would do to get it. And she was exhausting all of her avenues, and she went the route of actually having a fertility. And you know what? In some cultures, especially like African cultures too, they have these fertility guides and, the fertility statues and stuff like that. So it's not really uncommon. But that little shit that she gave her, I said, no, ma'am. It just didn't look, It looked one way. It was like a round thing or whatever. It looked unfinished. I said, damn, you could at least finish carving the bitch, okay? But then at this point, she took it home, put it underneath the bed. They was up in there talking and doing what they was doing about, he got a little job on, as a character. And, they talking or whatever. I really don't care what they was talking about. I just know they wound up having sex. Okay, they wound up having sex. And, it was just so dramatic. Okay, you got the lights flickering blue and red and white, and I'm sitting here like, ugh, what is going on? I said, so the baby is being produced. All right, next thing you know, it was like 16 months later, we hear a baby crying in this big ass house. Liv is holding on to the baby, trying to get the baby to stop crying. The housekeeper, Norma, she had to come up in there, and she was like, listen, girl, you got to take your time with her. You got to take your time with him. The baby name is Aaron. And her whole thing is, how come the baby keep on crying with her, but then when everybody else get it, the baby stop? If it look like I'm looking out the window, I am, because, you know how motherfuckers be nosy in my job. But anyway, so that wound up happening, right? The baby just instantly stopped talking and like stopped crying or whatever with the housekeeper. And at this point, Liv, she feels some type of way about the housekeeper because she's just like, girl, you need to shut up talking to me and just let me do my job, okay? You do your job and let me be the mother, So she's talking to her husband about stuff that's going on and how she feels and everything. And he basically suggests that she go talk to this doctor, okay? At first, she was like, I don't want to talk to a therapist. And he was like, it's not a therapist. She's an MD specialist that, specializes in postpartum depression and stuff like that, because that's what he figures is going on with her, And she went and took I don't know what she was doing in the room, but something told her to basically look underneath the bed. And she wound up looking underneath the bed and finding that statue. And she was like, oh, yeah, okay, I forgot that you was here. I should have just threw your ass away. But she put it in a box in the closet. And so, she went to go talk to the little doctor, played by Vanessa L. Williams. And I hope I'm saying it right, because, Vanessa Williams is the singer, the beloved beauty queen and all that stuff. I love both of them. Anyway, y'all, for the young ones that wasn't around back then, Vanessa Williams, Rick Fox's ex-wife, girl, go back and look at Ugly Betty. Wilhelmina, That was the show. ABC. It's on Hulu. It's on Hulu. I just gave y'all something to watch. It was so good. America Fiera. It was so good. But anyway, so she do all that. They go up in there talking, and basically what it comes down to is she was just trying to make it seem like your problems are basically probably mostly in your head. You're overstressed, and she asked the can a baby hate you? Can your babies hate you? And she was like, I know that it may feel like that, but it's probably because your baby is stressed out. You're stressed out, so they can feel that. And it is so crazy that, yeah, that happens. Like, your emotions and stuff affects your kids, And so that's why they say you have to be good for yourself to be good for your kids. And if you're going through all this trauma and stuff, they can feel that, And so she was basically like trying to calm her down, trying to, soothe her out or whatever, because mama was looking at the monitor at home. Next thing you know, she had put the baby to bed, and as soon as she went to sleep, finally, which probably was early in the morning, the husband wasn't there. Girl, she looked at the monitor, it's staticking, it's going in and out. And next thing you know, it looked like this little devil or demon something was up in the room with the baby. She get up and she go, oh my God, And she go look up in the bed. She turned around. He was behind her when she was looking in the, in the monitor and all this stuff. Because y'all know how they do in them scary movies. Like, you can't see them with your eyes, but if you look through a monitor, what was that last movie that was like that? I just see that. Come Play. Something like that. The boy could see the stuff through the monitor of a iPad, but you couldn't see him physically with your eyes. But when you saw him like in person, you couldn't see him in person. You saw him through the iPad in the forensics, or what is it, the static and the sound waves and all that shit, was technical, okay? And I was just like, oh my God, what is this? I said, I gotta go to sleep at night, okay? Where's my Bible? I'm not prepared for this. I should have known when I seen the title of it, and I said, this don't seem like this is American. And this don't seem like this is this is of this world. I feel like I shouldn't be watching this, okay? But at this particular moment, the doctor basically prescribed her some, what she called it, some Xanax? Not Xanax. Girl, some sleeping pills, some pills for anxiety to calm her down or whatever. I was about to say, it wasn't Zoloft. Girl, y'all will put it down in the comments. 50 milligrams, okay? So, she started taking them or whatever, and everything seemed like it was cool. Matt was doing good with his work. Next thing you know, they had a group of his friends over from college, and they're having a good time. And next thing you know, they spot a Ouija board game. I said, with all this shit that your wife is going through, mind you, she was telling him, don't you hear this? Don't you hear this? Listen to this. This is what before the, right before the therapist. Nope, this was afterwards. Because, nope, before that, before he had her go talk to a therapist, when she picked up the stuff on that baby monitor and the static and stuff like that, she was listening it, and she turned that thing up. She put it into the sound waves or whatever program on her computer to turn it up so she can clear it up. She was like, listen to this. I sped it up, and it was like, she was saying, it was saying, I want him. Something was saying, I want him. That's what prompted him to tell her, listen, we got to take you to the doctor, okay? Get you some help. So she get on this medicine. They having this little dinner date with his friends. Next thing you know, they see a Ouija board. I said, why is a Ouija board? With all this shit that's going on with your wife, why do we have a Ouija board up in the goddamn house? It's always a Ouija board. If you go into somebody's house and they have a Ouija board, turn the fuck back around, okay? That's what I want you to do. Girl, they started playing with the Ouija board. Imagine it was a black girl in there with this. I said, why are you with these people? This is not what we do, okay? This is not of us. What is happening? Girl, they started playing with that thing, and when it started moving, when I first saw it and they was trying to do something, they was like, Ouija board, is there anybody here with us? All I kept on thinking about was Kim off of Moesha when they was at the girls' night out, and then they pulled the Ouija board out, and Kim was like, oh, Ouija board. That's all I was thinking about. But all of a sudden, the thing started moving, and then it was spelling out Jack, and then me, and then off, and then you put it together, jack me off. So it was one of the friends that was doing that. And then they was like, stop playing, stop playing. Next thing you know, it starts saying, I want him, okay? Or he's mine. That's what it spelled out. And Liv, played by Billy, she started getting very hysterical, okay? Like, oh my God, he wants my baby. He wants my baby. This is Aaron. And, you know, she started going off. Matt, on the other hand, he pissed off at this point because he feels like, you're up here embarrassing me in front of my friends, okay? You need to quit playing and you need to get your shit together, okay? I've been through all this shit that you've been going through, and I've been trying to be there, and now I'm just over it, okay? Because this was crossing the line, embarrassing him in front of his friends. I said, way to be a supportive husband. Like, you already think that she probably going through like postpartum, and you really not gonna be there for her and understand. I mean, he was a little bit, but I mean, I guess everybody has a breaking point, but that wasn't the moment I feel like that he should have snapped off on her. But then, you know, he had the doctor come to the house again and had her listen to stuff, and it just didn't really help. Billy, or I should say Liv, she went over there and she found old girl, the receptionist bitch, that gave her that thing, because the totem pole, the little fertility guide thing, that came the fuck back, and it wasn't the same one. It looked like a demon. It looked like a devil or whatever. It had horns and all that shit. And, you know, she went and looked it up of what it was, and his name was Baal. It was a demon and all this shit. And I was like, throw that shit out, burn it, take it away. But then I know, but from history, even if you do that shit, it'll still pop back up. I said, oh, you might as well ride this shit out until the end, girl, because ain't no coming back from you. You in that bitch. So she found old girl in the parking lot, and she was like, bitch, you done fucking gave me this shit, so now we finna go fix this, okay? Why this girl got all this shit up in her house? I'm sitting here like, this is weird. She got all this occult shit, this, you know, she was like, I didn't know that it was a demon. It was supposed to be something good, you know? That's what he's supposed to do. And I had it, and it worked for my family and all this stuff. And, you know, I was going through some stuff, and I was out there in the world. I was being promiscuous. I was a hoe, okay? I was living my life foul. But then I learned and leaned into paganism, and it just changed my life around. I said, ma'am, what is going on? So she gave her this little witchcraft type of summons to do, to summons the demon to stop, you know. And so Billy goes home because Matt is at work, and, you know, she does it. I'm sitting here like, no ma'am. Got the baby sitting right there, putting the salt and shit on the floor, cutting herself, putting blood on top of the goddamn statue, and I'm just sitting here like, no ma'am, okay? Me and the baby probably would have been a goner, okay? Because I ain't finna go through all that. I would have been like, well, my time is over, so take me now. Because, you know, you won. Okay? But then, you know, while she was in the midst of doing this or whatever, it seemed like the spell was working, and she was standing up, and she heard this grumbling and stuff. Mind you, earlier, when she first was paranoid about the stuff, before she, you know, went to see the doctor, it was like scratch marks in the basement downstairs, and in the vent and everything, and she had cut herself at one point. But when she was doing this spell, she had got up, and she had this dagger, this little ancient dagger that the girl gave her. Baby, she turned around, she was startled, and did like this, bam, stabbed somebody. Come to find out, it was her husband. I said, oh Lord, she done killed the man. Bitch, next thing you know, 2 weeks later, she up in the mental institute, okay? And Matt come up in there. I was like, oh, okay, he's okay. And basically, Liv was like, I'm sorry for all of this, but I'm going to sign myself. I signed all the forms, okay, to until I figure out what's going on and I feel like we safe, I'ma just stay up in here, okay? And he was like, are you sure you're gonna do that? She was like, yes, you know, just watch Aaron, okay? But did I fail to mention when she found that statue, like deformed or whatever, it had formed into like the little demon and all that stuff. Baby, when she found it for the second time, she had asked the housekeeper, did you put this up in there? Because it was in the baby's crib. And she said, did you put this up in the baby's crib? The housekeeper looked at that shit. The housekeeper said, no ma'am, peace out, I quit. She ain't even give a second thought. She said, I don't do them things, okay? We don't play around with that. Y'all may do, but we don't. And so at this moment, what would end up happening? Matt go home and he kikiing it with his friends. Baby, before they get into the house, he gets into a car with the fucking secretary girl. Her name Bernadette. He been fucking with that bitch throughout the whole goddamn marriage. And then this whole thing was a setup. He had her put all that occult shit up in his house, in her house, and give her that statue and all this stuff. And then when he go home, his friends at her house, at Liv's house, okay? And basically, he set all this shit up like a TV show. Like a fucking TV show. They did the scratches on the wall in an event. The black girl put the smoke up in the vents or whatever so it can look like it was coming through. The Asian boy, he was doing all the growling and the sound and, you know, playing with the staticky of the monitors and stuff like that. Of course, Bernadine or whatever the fuck her name was the one that was faking like, you know, she knew all this occult stuff. And then the black girl also was the one that was carving those goddamn statues. I said, girl, why would you get yourself into this shit? I said, now whatever happens to you, you deserve it. You deserve it, okay? Because you was bogus and you was messed up to be around and playing around with this stuff. Now, when we grew up, we was taught not to play with shit like this, okay? You know that, all right? But at this point, basically, Matt said, keep that bitch up in there. Let her be crazy. I'm going to get all this money, and then we ain't going to have to work no more, okay? And then the baby started crying, so he went up in there to go check on the baby. And when he went to go check on the baby, the other friends, they was still up in there kikiing with each other, and then the light started, you know, flickering and shit like that. And they was like, it ain't me, it ain't me. And then it went off. They running because they see Bow. They see the little demon dude. And I'm thinking, is this a setup? I said, this got to be Liv or somebody that she didn't call, because she didn't caught on. That's what I'm thinking. Like, she didn't caught on to the shit, right? And at this point, everybody got killed except for Aaron, okay? Dude just around ripping out spines and, you know, intestines and all that shit. It was crazy. It was crazy. Aaron comes out there looking like, what? Next thing you know, we see Aaron up in jail. And he up there talking to Billy, or I should say Liv, okay? Come to find out, they set all of that up, including the drugs that she was taking. You know, they switched out her drugs, so it made her seem to a psychedelic, a psychotic drug, to make it look like she was having psychotic episodes. I said, why would you do that? All of this was so that he can get her money, and because he didn't want to have kids. And I said, you really called her down here, and she actually showed up, and you gonna tell her it's because you didn't want kids, and then eventually he didn't want her, okay? And like she said, but you wanted my money. And then this fool gonna say, listen, I know it started off as a joke, but come to find out that shit is real. I didn't do this, okay? You know, they gonna try to make it seem like I did it or whatever, but I really didn't do it. It was really bad. It was really bad. You know, and she was like, nigga, I ain't finna listen to you. And he had the nerve to ask her, can you get some money to give me a good lawyer? Because if I don't get a good lawyer, I'm gonna get chewed up by a public defender. I said, you got your nerves. You got your nerves. Mama said, I ain't doing shit for you, and said deuces, okay? Meanwhile, she at home with Aaron. And, you know, she all happy she got her baby or whatever. And then all of a sudden you hear this growling stuff. And then this dude said, face me. I said, wait a minute. What's about to happen? Girl, Bow turned around. He said, I killed them. Now, bitch, release me. I said, oh my God. She said, listen. What had happened was that girl thought she was giving her a fake summoning spell. Come to find out that shit was real, because she tried it again when she was up in that hospital and cut herself and everything and summoned him and was controlling him. Okay, she found out everything that was going on was controlling that motherfucker. And you know, I said, this is crazy. And then, you know, he just said, I did what you wanted me to do, so release me. And she said, I'll release you if you do one more thing for me. And he was like, what? She said, give me a baby. And the way she was trying to seduce him, I said, what in the Exorcist and Rosemary Baby is going on? Okay, that's how the episode ended. It was good. I enjoyed it. You guys tell me how you felt about it. Because when we did American Horror Stories Apocalypse, we had some fun on that because, baby, I was clutching the Bible every day. Okay, the Bible was sitting next to me each and every time I looked at it. I ain't gonna lie. But y'all tell me how y'all feel, and I'll see y'all later. Peace.